In this video, we have Pastor John Lomocang, and he is responding to some of his critics regarding the last sermon that he preached entitled Make Adventism Great Again, MAGA. And in that sermon, he said some things that were very controversial and defended the organization and their support for Adra, spoke about NGLs in a positive way. Some things were good in that sermon, some things were not. I've already had a video about this, and if you want to watch that, just watch till the end, and I'll put a link for you. In today's video, we're all going to listen to what he has to say. I'm not going to say too much of my opinion in today's video. I'm going to read your comments. You guys are smart. And I will say you guys are like 100 steps ahead of me in some of this stuff. So I'm going to just read what you guys have to say underneath the last video that I had regarding the matter. And again, I am a supporter of John Lomocang. I don't hate this man. Some people will say we need to get rid of John. I'm like, no. John is a good man. I just think he's actually not correct on some of this. And part of it is you kind of have to understand the nature of what's happening here and also be very patient with people who may not be where you are. And I think this is one of those cases. And I said it's friendly fire. It's not enemy fire. It's really friendly fire. But let's take a listen to John, and I'm going to share some things with you. Read your comments. I'm going to share some things, some documents that are very important. And I got a biblical verse that I got to share with you as well.
You know that want to share a few things, and I'll be able to do it from here. Mike, if you're not able to get that to run? Okay, not a problem. I'll be able to share from here. Just want to make a few statements here. A couple of weeks ago, I did a sermon called Make Adventism Great Again. And because the acronym was MAGA, it infuriated many individuals. Unfortunately, we're living in a day and age where you've got to shut up and stay in your closet. Well, that's not actually who I am. But the purpose of the message was not to litigate anything having to do with whatever agenda America wants to take. That's their prerogative and that's their right. And people vote, and individuals have the right to vote for whomever they please. That's not what the purpose of my sermon was at all. The purpose of the sermon was to remind us as a people that while the world is moving in one direction, the people of God should be moving in another direction. And there are always those who are standing ready to accuse our church. Let me make no mistake about it. I not only work along with 3ABN, but I'm an ordained pastor of the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church. My allegiance is to God first, His Word, and I am strongly allegiant to our church leadership. So I'm aware that magazine articles, YouTube talking heads, negative biased articles, and there are always dissenting voices looking for some reason to attack the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Why would that be a surprise to us when the Bible says the dragon is angry, he went to make war with the remnant of her seed that keep the commandments of God? That's us. Now, we're not exclusive, but we have a responsibility. God has not called us to exclusivity to say that we have salvation in our pocket. The Lord has us in His pocket. We don't own truth. Truth owns us. And so God has given us a responsibility as a people to make the trumpet clear, to make the message clear, to call out that which will hinder the progress of His work with clarity. This has been the continuation of the people of God in every age. And in the end, this is no time to close our windows, shut our doors, and go off into abject silence. God does not need a silent majority or silent minority. So what I wanted to do today was to show a video. Elder Wilson had a video that, for whatever reason, technical difficulties. But Elder Wilson, and by the way, when I made that statement a few weeks ago, I had already done my homework. Now, I've been maligned in an article. I don't even want to give legitimacy to the magazine. I wouldn't even mention it, or to the person that did the article. But I reached out to our church leaders, conference presidents, the World Church, to make sure that what I said was in harmony with what the church stands for. And at every level, they said yes. They said they read the article that was put out to try to make me look like my light is going out. but my light is not going out. It's going to continue to shine until Jesus comes. So the light is going out. This pastor is trying to find reasons to say the Sunday law is coming. Well, brethren, if you think that there is no Sunday law in your future, then you are living under a rock. And so you got to read these articles, and I love the way a good friend of ours said it. Sometimes you have to resist your right to get angry. You got to, don't get angry. Do God's will. Let the Lord deal with all of those things. So this statement that I'm going to be making today is not from a place of anger or hostility or disenchantment, but from the reiteration of the fact that our church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, has a world mission. And that world mission is bigger than America through the auspices of Adra. Now, I was going to allow you, but I'll just go ahead and quote some of what Elder Wilson said. And this is verbatim. He says, speaking on the issue of Adra, and by the way, you can go to the Adra website, adra.org, and you can see the video there and the full article. There is a 90-day freeze on this USAID block because many of the churches that have been falsely maligned are in dialogue with the U.S. government to clear their name. So there's a 90-day freeze on this block to prevent USAID. The Adventist Church, through ADRA since the 1980s, have helped societies and churches and people of all different classes throughout the world. And I like the way that Elder Wilson said it. He says, I'm quoting now, "We are asking for your continued partnership and generosity to help ADRA overcome this funding gap. Without the faithful support of our church members and donors, ADRA's ability to serve will be significantly hindered. The needs of the vulnerable and displaced populations have never been more urgent." But then now he goes, and there are news outlets, whatever channel you watch, I don't really care about that, they do what I call the bucket scoop, and they make a statement and include everybody in it without any individual investigation. And what you've seen on the media, if you've seen the Adventist Church mentioned as a non-governmental organization, an NGO, we are an NGO. ADRA is an NGO, not us as a church, but ADRA is an NGO, meaning their work is far larger than the agenda of America. They help all over the world where there are floods and disasters and difficulty. They feed, they give clothing, but they have been called, this is where I had to reach out to my church leaders. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has been called incredibly politically partisan, meaning the church, Adventist Church, is standing only in one political party. Now you know that's not true, because as in our own denomination, in our own congregation, people are on both sides of the aisle. That's your right as a citizen. But then we've been called radical leftists, anti-American, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I reached out to my church leaders at the top. I spoke to a conference president. I spoke to those at the general conference. And they said these accusations, and let me read the statement from Elder Wilson. "Some have suggested that ADRA has engaged," this is a quote, "some have suggested that ADRA has engaged in illegal activities, but this is completely incorrect. ADRA operates with the highest ethical and legal standards in harmony with our faith. We are committed to serving all people with compassion and dignity, regardless of their legal status." What does he mean? So people take that and say, oh, therefore you're helping the illegals. That's how they do that. When a person is hungry, when a person goes to a hospital, do you say, are you legal or illegal? Matthew 25, and this is what Elder Wilson talks about, Matthew 25, verse 35. Jesus calls us to be compassionate towards strangers. And then he says, ADRA's mission is to show the love of Christ by providing life-saving aid and in compliance with the laws, and in partnership with local communities. Together we can continue to restore dignity and provide hope to those who need it most. And that's how he concluded. So when you go to the Adra website, or you just put in Ted Wilson Adra, you'll find the video in its entirety. So brethren, we are not called to be politically partisan or leftist or radical left or anti-American. That's not the church that I pastor for. That's not the call upon our lives as leaders. So when I heard that, and a few weeks ago, I included that in my almost already completed sermon, Make Adventism Great Again. So we've got to make sure that whatever you read, and this is something that does not happen, people that write articles that malign most of our leaders do not reach out to those leaders and ask any questions. So there are many articles, there are many Adventist publications now that have taken on, quote-unquote Adventist publications that have taken on a National Enquirer mindset. And their leaders and their supporters are eating garbage that does not support the stand of our church. So when you read these articles, you know that me, as a pastor, is not anti-American. I do not stand against the teachings of our church. And we are here to help the suffering of everyone, regardless of where they're from. But in no means and by no means will we ever do anything out of harmony and in violation of the laws of our country. When we are accused of that, I thank the Lord that our lawyers at the General Conference and in our churches are taking their stand in dialogue with the United States government to clear our name as a church. But let me finish by saying this. Don't always think it's going to be that way. So we have to know that God is, in the end result, the arbiter and the one whose last decision will determine the stand of his church. Be humble about it. Don't get upset about it. But watch out where you're getting your information from. And don't take everything you read on the internet as law. Go to the sources. That's what I try to do. Every now and then, humanity will overtake me, and sometimes I can make a slip up. But in that event, I'll correct it. But on this issue, I am not making a statement that is not in support of our church. Just want you to bring you up to date. All right? We have a president, we have an administration that operates at the highest Christian standards. Adra and the Seventh-day Adventist Church takes that as a high prize, and we do not do anything that will cause our U.S. government to look at us as radically left, politically partisan, and anti-American. Just information for you. Happy Sabbath. And now I want to also thank Pastor Ryan Johnson and Ian Vandervalk for the sermons the last 2 Sabbaths. Amen? I'm so glad to know that whenever I'm out of town, we have men and women. Shelley Quinn did an excellent job. And by the way, she reminded me there's a part 2 to that. So we were planning to have her come and give part 2. She did a wonderful sermon about know your identity in the Lord. So pray for me. Pray for me. I just, you say, Pastor, pray for you, but pray for me. I need it. Because the call that God has on any pastor's life, if he accepts that call, it's not a call to popularity. It's not a call for supportive opinions. It's a call to simply pursue this statement. All I want to do is one day hear from God. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Outside of that, I love you all, but anytime anybody is trying to get me to ignore the call on my life, my allegiance is to God alone.
These were the words of the man. I appreciate the fact that he has the courage to take a stand and believe what he believes and declares it publicly. That is a good thing. That doesn't mean we have to agree with him, but that is a good thing. However, I do think John is missing a number of factors here. I'm going to explain why. Here, the first thing I want to do, let's read some comments from the last video that we talked about, right? Astony 754 had this to say, time to live by faith, Adra. Audrey Lane 2904, church is the body of Christ. Congregation is the church. Christ wants us to be separate from the world. We are not of this world. We are just passing through. All right, Norma Tag. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Pastor John, have you had any idea how long it has been Adra has actually been an SDA organization? When leaders join Adra up with the papacy and with the organization of the Church of the USA, Adra lost its SDA identity, along with the financial support of people like my husband and myself, who will not knowingly fund any of the papacies. Mavis Monroe's 7902 had this to say: Pastor John Lomocang, you should have known that church and state must not unite. It's time for them to withdraw. It's all about money with the General Conference. One of our subscribers added, Tadzilla, he had this to say: Pastor John Lomocang isn't sharing the complete issue. Why is an SDA ministry not only accepting federal money, but it is only their entire budget? Is that not only going to sway what we can do or say while conducting business due to be afraid of getting cut off? Adra was actively assisting migrants on their way to break U.S. laws, not helping in their home countries. This is the main reason why they were seen as anti-American in their work. To not tell that part of the story is being dishonest or uninformed at the least. Also, regarding the panel discussions, isn't the health message the right arm of the gospel? If so, why wouldn't we have health discussions with non-SDA peoples as a door to speak about the gospel? Criso de Martinez, 1646, had this to say: I feel that we as a church are becoming like world. I need God's guidance and discernment to follow the truth. I can't fathom how people see wrong as right. I am asking God to help me not get upset, but to pray for others to see the truth. One of the second most reviewed comment is Abraham Washington 3998. The General Conference, along with all SDA church institutions, must learn the critical lesson that their mission should remain separate from politics and independent of governmental influence. When they fail to do so, they jeopardize their integrity and dilute the core of their mission. Now, one of the articles that John was speaking about is from Fulcrum 7. And I did make reference to this article, and I'll be honest with you, some of the comments in this article are not very Christians. You know, when the other article was written about Barbara O'Neill calling her a crackpot on Adventist Today, there you have it right there. I did make a video addressing some of the things that were said here in the article. And then when I read some of the comments of the people as well, I saw a parallel. I don't want to start policing other people's thoughts. You guys are entitled to share your opinion here. I just read your own thoughts here on my channel. I totally respect it. But I will say, whether it is from the left or from the right side of our church, just don't forget to be Christian as you speak on these matters. There are things being said here about Pastor John that I do not agree with. I don't promote that. I will say it's one thing to address an idea and what a man have said that is not in line with truth or that violates biblical conscience, or you just personally disagree with that. But it's another thing to go after the man. All right, let's not go after the man. It's okay to address the idea. So here is another thing that I found interesting that he did not speak about. And again, Adra joined faith leaders in prayer vitriol against foreign aid cuts. So the church wanted to pray. Adra wanted to pray. I want to be exactly correct. Adra wanted to pray. This happened on March 14th. When you go down, it talks about here, and again, this is Spectrum Magazine of all people. The agency received $60 million, almost 67, right? 62, Adra receives about $62 million from USAID to fund humanitarian programs worldwide in 2023. I'm not sure if you know, I did some research. Many of these NGOs that are doing humanitarian work in these fields are actually assisting destabilizing the region even more. A lot of people in these regions in parts of Africa and other places around the world, they have been saying that. They're saying that this is destabilizing our country, and at the same time, it opens doors for other government movements to take away their natural resources. So in the name of assisting the people, it's almost like an unfair trade that takes place. So while they are helping these places, it also makes it possible for government leaders to come around with their agenda and kind of like suck the ground dry of their oil, uranium, and other natural resources. And the people have been saying, if you just leave us alone and take care of our own land and help us to exploit the land, it will be better off for us than to keep funding us with these NGOs in the name of assisting us while to the back door our natural resources are leaving the country. So that's another thing to think about as well. So I'm in no way saying Adra is guilty of this. All I'm saying is a lot of NGOs are helping the UN in the process of destabilization of many nations. In the same vein, they are stealing their resources. So I got a video to prove that I will share with you this week anyway. The amount represents approximately 64% of Adra's total revenue, which is about $96,362,929 for that year, 2023. That's the only one that's been reported on their website. 2024 is not there yet, at least uploaded. There is not a way you can upload that. So keep in mind, 64% of Adra's revenue came from the government. Okay, so what does that do? Well, it makes it impossible to share the gospel, and it helps to promote the UN agenda. So don't take my words for it. You can actually go to the UN NGO branch of the UN. And this is the part that actually I could not understand. And I need help with this because I have to do further research to better understand what's happening here. It doesn't list Adra. Particularly, it just calls the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. There could be reasons for that. And I'm not saying this in any way to be bad, but they make a direct link to the Adventist.org showing that there is a relationship here. And here in the consultative status, there are some links you can open up. If you notice the 2016 to 2013, 2016, the one for 2009 and 2012 is open. And when you click that one, it opens this page for you. And here in this page, if you go to page 8 of the PDF, it tells you since 1985, the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the world governing body of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, a Christian organization that promotes a better life, both spiritual and physical, for individuals and communities. So it's telling you how the church is operating. They pretty much telling the UN everything that they have been doing with the money. That's what it says here. But it's interesting. It doesn't just say Adra. It speaks about the church as a whole. That was my concern. I just don't understand if it's just an Adra thing, why they, have the, well, again, I know the Adra is owned by the church. So that could be one of the reasons why this is the case. But it's going to require further research. The other thing is, it's a simple question. Do we as an institution need to rely on government funds to do the work of God, right? So when that prayer vitriol is discussed about, how much of it is Lord provide or Lord give us back more of that government money? Can God take care of his church? God can, and he will. He loves his people, and he will. And we have Isaiah 58 to prove that. There is a repenting that must take place, okay? Our leadership must know what it's like to live by faith, amen, and what it's like to trust in God. And I think these strings attached could have already had a negative impact in the way we talk about certain issues in the world. And it muffles the mouths of many people in the church to preach the three angels' messages. You know, if you preach the three angels' messages, you're going to look controversial, extremely controversial. And most of the UN programs that are discussed, the three angels' messages contradict these things. There's no way they will continue to support and give you money when you are preaching things that goes against their agenda. So, the Bible tells us to cry out and spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, show my people their transgressions, in the house of Jacob their sins. So what is it that they were doing wrong? Well, I'm not trying to go against institution here. God wants us to do service for him. And the idea here, when you read Isaiah 58, by the way, this is one chapter that Ellen White has written the most about. Isaiah 58, not any other chapter. This is the one. So this tells me service matters. The work that Adra has been doing does matter, but you must not separate it from the preaching of the gospel. Neither should we rely on government funds to carry it out. Maybe we need to function in smaller groups like the Gideon ministry. Maybe we need to function like, these guys here. These are friends of our ministry, Gideon Rescue Cooperation. These guys are awesome. So you want to find an alternative that is functioning in an effective way to meet humanitarian needs, and while not compromising the gospel, praying for folks and giving them tracts, Bible studies, and the great controversies around the world. There you go. So there are alternatives, and I think more alternative must take place, right? We need to disconnect from these government fund entities so that we can function effectively, and also, so we don't have to cooperate and capitulate to their agenda. There are ways to escape this. Anyway, these are my thoughts and perspective. I want to hear from you. Share your thought and perspective with me in a comment below. Let's have the conversation. Do you agree with the man? Do you agree with the man's message? Let's keep talking. I'll see you in our next video. Have a good one. Bye.